Directed by Junpei Mizuzaki and Shinji Tagaji, Batman Ninja vs. the Yakuza League is the direct sequel to the Batman Ninja film that came out in 2018. And this is a fictional storyline, not necessarily following the Batman Ninja versus the Yakuza League, like in the comics and everything. This is its own like fictional made-up story about an alternate Japan called Hinamoto that has dispersed off from Gotham City, like the normal Feudal Japan era. There's a lot of hijinks and antics that go into this, and it's a very interesting and different storyline. So let's get into the review. Koichi Yamadera, who voices Batman or Bruce Wayne in this Japanese version of the DC animated heroes that we know and love, has come into contact with different versions of people in the Justice League that he knows, different Feudal Japan versions of the Justice League, or various leaders of the Yakuza, and they call them the Yakuza League. He's joined by Nightwing, voiced by Daisuke Ono, and several different Robins, such as Damian Wayne, his personal son, voiced by Bryson Bogus, Jason Todd, or the Red Hood, who's voiced by Akira Ishida, another version of Robin called the Red Robin, voiced by Kengo Kawanishi, and later is met up with by Harley Quinn, who's voiced by Rie Kugimiya. So as I stated earlier, this storyline is based upon an alternate version of Gotham City, or of Japan as well, that's called Hinamoto. And it's a city in the sky. The space-time continuum has been messed up by none other than Ra's al Ghul, who is voiced by Kazuhiro Yamaji. And in this iteration, Ra's al Ghul wants to take over Gotham, as he always does in every version of himself. However, he makes this machine that kind of takes space and time, messes with space and time, and makes alternate versions of these heroes and kind of takes them from their original place and, again, as I said, make an alternate version of them. Some of these alternate versions of these heroes in the Justice League include Green Lantern, Jessica Cruz as Green Lantern, Aquaman, The Flash, and of course Superman, and Wonder Woman is in this alternate world as well. Jessica Cruz Green Lantern is voiced by Ayane Sakura. This version of Aquaman is voiced by Akio Otsuka. We also have my boy, The Flash, who is voiced by Nobuyuki Hiyama. And finally, the somewhat leader of this Yakuza League is Superman, and he is voiced by Takaya Kamikawa. At first I was kind of like, I don't know, this seems a little too weird and too different for me, because I love DC Comics a little bit more than Marvel Comics. That's not to say that Marvel Comics are bad, because they're not. They're absolutely phenomenal. Both franchises have their merits, and both franchises have both good and bad things about them. Let's not muddle things here. Let me just make it straight. I love both Marvel and DC, but DC resonates with me more because I read more DC comics growing up than I did Marvel comics. Yeah, it was just very different, and at first, for the first like 15-20 minutes, I was kind of like, I don't know, man, I might have to turn this off and watch it another time. I'm just not feeling it. And that says a lot, coming from a DC lover. That says a lot. However, as time went on, I really grew to love this movie. It was just so different. As I said, what made me kind of get taken out of it a little bit in the beginning is what won me over, not even about 15, 20, or 30 minutes later after that initial 15-minute, like, meh. I will say Romy Park, who voiced Wonder Woman, was phenomenal in this, and her and Batman working together, even though she didn't necessarily know him in this because it's an alternate version of a city in the sky, and it's completely different to all of them. Case in point, you know, the Yakuza League or the alternate Justice League, they're the bad guys here, so it's very different. It's just crazy because there's a movie called Justice League Doom, and that's where Batman has a contingency plan, and the whole Justice League finds out that Batman has a contingency plan for every single member of the Justice League, including himself, that just in case they turned against each other or the world or innocent people, he could take them down. It's crazy how they incorporated that in this, because that's what in essence the movie is about and leads to, is Batman eventually having to be like, all right, well, you're my homies, but screw y'all right now. It's go time. And the way how the antics play out, and the way how the different versions of Superman, Flash, Aquaman, Green Lantern, they just are so menacing, and they seem kind of like dopey evil villains, but because they're so overly powered, it's ridiculous. They have these henchmen that they call bullets, that they fire like actual bullets at the portal. It's insane. Like, the movie is so over the top, and it's very, very anime-esque, and I love it because DC mixed with anime is some of the greatest stuff that we've gotten, and I'm sorry, I will say that. It is so great. So as I was saying, Ra's al Ghul's plan is to, in essence, eradicate the people of the normal Japan and have his Yakuza League take over that world and take over everything, because Ra's al Ghul is just a crazy, cynical old fella who's been revived from the Lazarus pit millions of times and is just hell-bent on world domination and destruction and despair and death. He has his League of Assassins, you know, in other iterations, but in this specific storyline, he has his League of Assassins that are overly powered and like the most powerful of the powerful. So in order to get things back to normal, or at least just civil, Batman and all of the Robins, including Nightwing, have to work together and try and convince or take down, or whatever the case is, these Yakuza League or other versions of these heroes. And one thing about Wonder Woman that showcases her character from the comics and everything else is, even though she was in this alternate world and there was a version of Themyscira in this alternate version of Japan, Hinamoto in the sky, she still retained her true essence, her true nature of being good and honorable. And that spoke a lot to me, because it was like, it doesn't matter what version of her, except for like the Flashpoint storyline, you know, that's, you know, she's out here just murking people and beheading people, but you know, whatever, that's neither here nor there. We're not talking about that.
Who are you? And what are you doing in New Themyscira?
My name is Colonel Steve Trevor of the United States Special Forces.
Who is Lois Lane?
Lois Lane is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist who's been embedded in New Themyscira for 3 months, gathering intel on your Amazons for Cyborg. She's also one of the most beautiful women I've ever met.
Until now, you mean?
May I deal with the prisoner for you?
No. The Queen of the Amazons is a servant to her people. Nothing is beneath her.
She still retains who she is as a hero, and Batman even mentions it. He's like, yeah, it doesn't matter where you are just you. That's not what he says, but in essence that's what he says, because it's just a high respect that they both have for each other. Thought that was very significant, not only for this story, but for the characters of Batman and Wonder Woman. They have romances in the comics and in animated stuff, and in this, it's kind of seemed like there was that, you know, in that the other version, the normal version, there was maybe something there starting to build, but this new version, or excuse me, this alternate version of them, Batman realizes that he can trust this Wonder Woman. And what's crazy is Wonder Woman works with someone that is a villain, and it's nuts. This whole story is all over the place, and the costuming is beautiful, the cinematography is great, the animated graphics, the way how they did, I love the way how they do the Batman Ninja franchise. The animation is so different, it's very wonky and out there, but I love it. It works. And this movie was really amazing to me. I saw that it was very lowly rated, and I also saw that some people were kind of bashing it, and I was like, okay, that's very weird. And I mean, within the first 15 minutes, I was like, okay, I get it. And then instantly, like a flip switched, and we got to certain things, and I was like, oh, well, shit. This is great. Wow, holy crap. I definitely want to watch it again and do a spoiler video on it and talk about various things in there that kind of pan to the to like normal Justice League members, because they have alternate names in this alternate world, and I'm sorry, I don't really remember all of the names of these heroes. I do remember that Aquaman was Asha or something like that. So there's different things that go on in this movie, and there's different ways to say their names in the Japanese lore and the Yakuza way. So the next time that I watch it, I will write down the names so that I can properly tell you guys in like a spoiler video. So thank you guys so much for joining me for this video, and I really appreciate any and all support. If you haven't seen the Batman Ninja movie from 2018, I would suggest watching that before watching this, and definitely watch this as well, because it's a nice little follow-up, and it's just such a great installment in DC's world, and I love this movie, and I really hope that they do more of these anime style DC movies and shows and stuff, because it works and it's awesome. You know the drill. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you aren't subscribed already. Thanks again for watching, guys. Until the next one.